What if I told you? The reason you feel stuck, anxious, or overwhelmed isn't because life is unfair, but because nobody ever handed you the tools to deal with it. Imagine living your whole life without being taught how your own mind works. We spend years learning math, science, and history, but not how to handle heart rate, self-doubt, or the crushing weight of stress. That's exactly what Dr. Julie Smith uncovers in her book, Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? The Missing Manual for Your Mental Health. Today, we're diving into lessons that could transform the way you think, feel, and live. Are you ready to finally hear what nobody ever told you? Hello, everyone. I'm Emma.
And I'm John.
And welcome to Book Podcast Own. We're so excited today, really thrilled to take this deep dive into Dr. Julie Smith's incredible work. Seriously, this isn't just another self-help book. It's genuinely like discovering a comprehensive toolkit, maybe even a manual, for navigating the modern mind and all its complexities.
Right.
We've got an amazing set of sources here today.
Right.
We're looking at detailed chapter narratives from her book, but also digging into some of the historical psychology that actually underpins her advice. It gives us a really robust understanding.
It provides that context.
Exactly. And our mission today is pretty clear. Extract those vital nuggets of knowledge, help you shortcut your way to being, well, profoundly well-informed about your own mental landscape. You'll walk away with not just actionable insights, we hope, but genuinely surprising facts and probably more than a few aha moments. You know, those times where something just clicks and might just reframe how you see yourself and your emotions.
That's absolutely right. And what's so compelling, I think, about Dr. Smith's approach is how she masterfully bridges these foundational psychological concepts. I mean, ideas that have been explored for decades, even centuries in some philosophical traditions. She bridges those with incredibly practical, real-world strategies. And they feel perfectly tailored for our contemporary lives, you know, right here in 2025. It's not about abstract theory floating around. It's about giving you both the why do I feel this way, and then, crucially, the immediate how. How do I manage this effectively?
Right, the practical steps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to explore 8 key areas today that touch almost every facet of our emotional lives. We're talking battling persistent low mood, finding motivation when it's gone missing, dealing with pain, grief, all the big stuff.
Yeah.
Right up to ultimately finding a deeper sense of purpose.
Huh.
So let's really unpack this material together. And trust me, you're going to find immense value in these insights. Might even want to keep a mental note or, you know, a real note of what resonates most with you.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a feeling that's probably all too familiar to many of us listening. Low mood, you know, that specific sensation, right?
Yeah.
That gray filter just descending over your day makes everything feel a bit heavier, maybe a bit less vibrant.
Yeah.
Even when there's no obvious, like, external reason for it, it just is. Dr. Julie Smith cleverly refers to this low mood as a sneaky visitor, which I kind of like.
It is good.
It's not some random, inexplicable curse we just have to endure. She suggests it's actually a sophisticated signal, a message from our body and mind, attempting to communicate something pretty vital to us.
Exactly. And Dr. Smith's perspective here is truly insightful, I think, because it fundamentally reframes how we perceive these difficult moments. She posits that low mood isn't just about feeling bad, you know, in quotes. It's an alarm bell for unmet needs.
Alarm bell. Okay.
Think of it less as a punishment, something you did wrong, and more as your body's sophisticated internal notification system, kind of like a check engine light for your well-being.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Maybe even burning the candle at both ends, you know, consistently skipping meals to hit deadlines, or getting far too little restorative sleep night after night. Or, and this is a big one now, maybe you're caught in that relentless cycle of endless screen time. That's an increasingly common culprit in our always-on 2025 lifestyle, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The scroll.
This feeling, this low mood, is your system sending a clear, if uncomfortable, message. Hey, pay attention here. Something significant needs to change or be addressed. And to put a really vivid picture to this, imagine waking up in a major U.S. city, let's say New York or Los Angeles. Huge places, right? You're surrounded by this vibrant energy of millions of people. The constant hum of activity, the early morning commuters, the endless construction sounds.
Yeah, the buzz.
The city is literally bustling with life. Yet you, right there in the midst of it all, feel completely drained, utterly unmotivated, detached, like you're trying to walk through thick mud while everyone else is sprinting past.
Wow, yeah.
This isn't just a random bad day, she argues. It's your system signaling something deeper. a profound call to check in with yourself, really assess what vital needs might be going unaddressed in the middle of all that external chaos.
It's so easy, though, isn't it, to just dismiss it? Not just a bad day or woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but that underlying message. It's clearly more profound than we often give it credit for. And this idea that our moods are signals, not just random occurrences we're subjected to, that actually has deep historical roots in psychological thought, doesn't it? It's not entirely brand new.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. If we connect this to the broader historical trajectory of psychology,
Yeah.
we can trace these insights back to the very nascent stages of the field. Think early 20th century. Now, while they're often debated and critiqued today, figures like Sigmund Freud were among the very first to truly explore this concept of the mind's hidden layers.
Yeah.
They suggested that our internal states, our feelings, our dreams, our moods, aren't just surface-level stuff.
Right. There's something underneath.
Exactly. Yeah. They proposed that there are often underlying, maybe unconscious, mechanisms and reasons for how we feel, which might not be immediately apparent to us. Dr. Smith kind of builds on this foundation. She shows that while those early thinkers explored the existence of these hidden layers, we can now, by understanding these signals, by tuning into that internal alarm bell she talks about, we can consciously learn to decode them.
Ah, okay, so decode the message.
Yeah, this moves us beyond simply reacting to the feeling, just being swept away by it. It empowers us to understand what it's genuinely trying to communicate. And by doing that, we gain a profound sense of agency over our own emotional landscape. We're not just passengers anymore.
But decoding them means we need to be smart about our reactions, right? Because sometimes,
Yeah.
well, often, when that low mood creeps in, our first, almost instinctual reaction is to reach for what feels like a quick fix. Even if down the line it ultimately backfires and makes things worse, we just want relief now.
This brings us to a really critical point about pitfalls. You're absolutely right. Dr. Smith specifically warns against chasing quick fixes that backfire. It's such a natural human tendency, isn't it, to seek immediate relief from discomfort.
Totally.
A prime and incredibly relevant example she highlights, particularly for our 2025 digital landscape,
Yeah.
is doom scrolling on social media.
Oh, yeah. Guilty.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
While it might offer a fleeting distraction, maybe a moment of zoning out, that endless consumption of news or feeds, or worse, those perfectly curated lives, it almost always amplifies the comparison games.
Ah, yeah.
They're already feeling low, maybe a bit vulnerable, and then you see this endless stream of curated highlight reels. Everyone else's seemingly perfect lives, their amazing career successes, their lavish vacations, their perfectly toned bodies.
Exhausting.
Exactly. Suddenly, your own struggles, your perceived failures, or just your quiet normal life feels even heavier, somehow less valid. And it can plunge you into a deeper sense of inadequacy. Consider the experience, for example, of someone working in Silicon Valley, or maybe a similar hyper-competitive tech hub, say Austin or Seattle.
Okay.
The pressure there for constant innovation, demonstrating outward success, maintaining this thriving, always-on lifestyle. It's immense.
Right.
So when they hit a patch of low mood, they might unconsciously, almost automatically, fall into that trap of endlessly consuming social media, comparing their perceived stagnation or lack of viral success to the carefully crafted public successes of others, their colleagues, their competitors. This doesn't uplift them. It leads to a deeper, more entrenched sense of inadequacy, feeding the very low mood they were trying to escape in the first place. The quick fix becomes a long-term detriment. It digs the hole deeper.
Wow. That's a powerful example. So if those tempting quick fixes are largely out, if they're actually counterproductive, what are the real game changers Dr. Smith recommends? What are those simple yet hopefully powerful actions that can genuinely start to shift our mood in a positive direction?
What's truly effective and frankly quite refreshing about Dr. Smith's recommended game changers is their sheer simplicity. That's what I love about them. These aren't complex, time-consuming interventions requiring, hours of effort. They're accessible, everyday actions that can have a surprisingly profound impact.
Okay, good. Simple is good.
One key practice, she suggests, is simply jotting down 3 wins from the day.
3 wins. Okay.
And this isn't about listing monumental achievements. I solved world hunger today. It's about actively encouraging your brain to seek out and acknowledge positive experiences, even tiny ones. A kind word someone said, a task you finally completed, maybe just a moment of peace you noticed.
So retraining the focus.
Precisely. This practice subtly shifts your focus away from dwelling solely on the negative, which is where our brains often go automatically when we feel low. Another profoundly simple yet powerful act she champions is stepping outside for fresh air, just getting out the door.
Really, just fresh air.
Yeah. There's tangible science behind these seemingly minor acts. They quite literally spark those feel-good brain chemicals, things like serotonin and dopamine. They give your mood a natural, gentle lift without the inevitable crash associated with, say, sugary snacks or excessive caffeine. So to illustrate, imagine a gloomy, overcast morning. Maybe you're in a suburban neighborhood somewhere in the Midwest, looking out the window, feeling that heavy lethargy.
Yeah, I can picture that.
Instead of hitting snooze repeatedly, succumbing to the inertia of that dark mood,
Rainbow.
you could take one small proactive step. Just one.
Yeah.
Maybe you blast a favorite upbeat playlist. Could be classic Motown, energetic 90s hip-hop, whatever works for you while you make your morning coffee. Let the rhythm kind of shift your internal state.
Okay. Music helps.
Or you just step out onto your porch or your balcony, or even just into your backyard for 5 minutes. 5 minutes of fresh air. Feel the temperature on your skin. Notice the sounds before your first hybrid work meeting of the day.
Think about college athletes, right? Often under immense pressure. They adopt these small, consistent, routine tweaks. Maybe a pre-game meditation, a specific visualization exercise, or even just a ritualistic stretching sequence. They do it not just for physical performance, but specifically to improve their mental game, to shake off pre-competition jitters or navigate a slump in performance. It's about these proactive, consistent interventions, not just passively waiting for the mood to magically lift.
And beyond those immediate sort of quick win actions,
Yeah.
she also emphasizes the absolute fundamentals, doesn't she? The things that are so often overlooked in our increasingly busy, demanding lives. Things we know are important, but somehow easily deprioritize when we're stressed or feeling low.
Precisely, yes. Dr. Smith consistently brings us back to the basics. She underscores sleep, movement, and nutrition as your mood's, quote, secret weapons. Secret weapons. I like that.
And in the context of 2025, especially with these pervasive hybrid work demands that have significantly blurred the lines between our professional and personal lives for so many, the importance of consistent, intentional habits in these three areas cannot be overstated.
It's foundational.
Absolutely. Neglecting them is like trying to run a marathon on an empty tank. It just doesn't work long term. A quick brisk walk during a lunch break, maybe you're in a corporate park in a sprawling city like Dallas or Atlanta, or diligently ensuring a consistent sleep schedule, even when your work hours might vary. These actions can dramatically rebuild that inner spark. These aren't optional extras or luxuries for when you have time. She argues they're the fundamental pillars upon which all other mental well-being strategies are built.
Right.
They allow you to create a robust foundation of well-being. And that foundation enables you to eventually turn these dark places, as she calls them, into launch pads for brighter days, rather than getting sucked down by their pull.
So for you listening, this really isn't about somehow eradicating low mood entirely, because frankly, that's probably an unrealistic, maybe even an unhelpful goal. Life has ups and downs.
Exactly.
Instead, it's about equipping yourself with the vital tools to understand its messages, to decode what that low mood is trying to tell you, and then, crucially, to respond effectively and proactively. It's about transforming that feeling of being stuck, of being powerless, into a powerful opportunity for self-awareness and proactive self-care. It's about taking the reins back, gaining a sense of control over your own emotional experience. If you're finding these insights helpful so far, and we hope you are, please take just a moment to like, subscribe, and maybe share this deep dive. It helps others find it and ensures you get more updates. Now let's continue to the next powerful lesson from Dr. Julie Smith.
Okay, let's move on to something that, gosh, plagues almost all of us from time to time. A lack of motivation.
Yeah.
You know that feeling, right? You're staring at your to-do list, could be for a complex work project, a creative endeavor you want to start, or maybe even just a pile of laundry that seems to be mocking you. Oh, the laundry pile.
Exactly. It feels less like a manageable list and more like a towering, insurmountable mountain you just cannot bring yourself to climb. Zero energy for it. And we often fall into this trap, don't we? Thinking we need some kind of magic spark to feel motivated, like some bolt of lightning will suddenly strike and propel us into action. We just wait. We wait for inspiration, for the right feeling to arrive.
That's precisely the common misconception Dr. Julie Smith addresses head-on. And she does it with what she calls a thrilling reveal, which is a great phrase. She asserts, quite counterintuitively for many of us, that action breeds motivation, not the other way around. Whoa! Okay, flip that around. Action breeds motivation. Exactly. That's a truly profound shift in perspective. Instead of passively waiting for inspiration to strike like some muse descending, you actively create it by simply starting, just doing something. Now, This insight, while maybe surprising in its modern framing, isn't entirely new. As you mentioned earlier, these things often have roots. It's deeply rooted in behavioral psychology from the mid-20th century. Think of pioneers like B.F. Skinner. His extensive work demonstrated how rewards shape habits through a feedback loop.
Okay.
When we take even a tiny step, maybe an insignificant seeming step, and we experience even a small sense of accomplishment, no matter how minor, our brain releases dopamine, that powerful feel-good neurotransmitter.
Ah, the dopamine hit.
Right. This then reinforces the desire to continue. It creates a virtuous cycle. Action, a small reward, desire for more action. This psychological feedback loop is precisely why we often stall. We're waiting for the feeling before the action.
Yeah.
Understanding this loop is key to surging forward. And to give you a concrete example, imagine you're in a bustling U.S. office. Maybe you're in a marketing department for a major consumer brand based in Chicago or maybe Minneapolis.
Okay.
You're staring at a complex new campaign brief. The sheer scope feels overwhelming, paralyzing even. You feel that familiar desire to procrastinate, to wait for a brilliant creative idea just pop into your head.
Yeah, the waiting game.
Dr. Smith suggests that instead of waiting, you just start. Do one small thing. Maybe it's just one email to a colleague to gather some preliminary information. Or maybe just 5 minutes of online research on a specific competitor's recent marketing moves. That initial tiny action, however insignificant it seems in the grand scheme of the campaign, breaks the inertia. It creates momentum. It proves to your brain, hey, I don't need motivation to begin. I begin to get motivation.
That's such a powerful reframe. It really does flip our usual approach completely on its head. So if action is the key, if that's the engine, how does Dr. Smith suggest we actually nurture that drive, especially when it feels incredibly elusive or that mountain still seems way too high to climb? How do we make that first action happen?
She offers genuinely clever ways to nurture that elusive drive, and they all revolve around making that crucial first step as easy and non-threatening as possible. Minimize the barrier.
Okay, low barrier.
Her primary advice is brilliantly simple. Break daunting goals into tiny, doable bites. Consciously make the barrier to entry so incredibly low that it feels almost silly not to do it.
Like ridiculously small.
Yeah, ridiculously small. For instance, if you're aiming to establish a consistent exercise routine, a really common goal, right? Instead of committing to an intimidating hour-long gym session, which might feel overwhelming on day one, tell yourself you'll do just 5 minutes of exercise. Put on your shoes, walk around the block once. That's it. This initial minimal commitment is rarely met with strong internal resistance. It feels manageable. But what frequently happens, you know this.
You end up doing more.
Exactly. That 5 minutes often snowballs into a full routine because once you start, the inertia is broken. The inherent motivation begins to build, propelled by that initial dopamine hit from just doing something. And in 2025, with so many smart tools and, AI automating mundane chores and streamlining tasks, we can apply this principle to our digital lives too. Reclaiming small wins like taking 5 minutes to organize your chaotic digital workspace or tackling just one overdue email that's been nagging you can powerfully reignite that fire and rebuild your sense of efficacy. It's not about achieving everything at once. It's about consistently doing something small. Build momentum.
Okay, but what if? What if you truly, genuinely, absolutely don't feel like it? I mean, we've all been there. Where that resistance feels like a physical wall, and even the idea of 5 minutes feels like an insurmountable hurdle.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this is where Dr. Smith introduces a crucial, almost provocative concept. She talks about forcing the first step.
Forcing it. Okay, that sounds tough.
It does. It feels so counterintuitive to our natural inclination to seek pleasure and avoid discomfort. Our brains are fundamentally designed to conserve energy, right? Why do something hard if you don't have to?
Right. Path of least resistance.
Exactly. However, she explains that by consciously forcing the first step, even when every fiber of your being resists, even when you feel absolutely zero motivation, maybe even negative motivation, your brain's reward system will kick in. Once you start and experience that initial sense of doing, that initial discomfort, that mental push required to override the inertia, it gives way to a sense of accomplishment, however small. And that provides the internal reward that then fuels further action. You have to push through the initial friction. Think about remote workers across the U.S., maybe trying to push through a particularly tedious or overwhelming task. It could be a quarterly report, some dense data analysis, something they just dread.
Yeah, been there.
Many are turning to accountability strategies now. using virtual co-working apps like FocusMate, which pairs you with a stranger for a focused work session, or even just a simple shared Google Doc with colleagues to track individual progress, did my 25 minutes on the report.
Accountability partners.
Right. Just showing up for that virtual meeting or literally logging the first 5 minutes of work on the task. That
Yeah.
is the forced first step. And it can be incredibly effective at triggering the brain's reward system, breaking that insidious cycle of procrastination and inertia. It's about consciously leveraging your own psychology to overcome that initial, very real hurdle.
That's incredibly helpful for daily tasks and projects. Makes total sense. But what about those much bigger shifts in life? The really daunting stuff, like taking on a completely new, demanding job or maybe making a cross-country move. How do these principles apply when the scale is so much larger?
Yeah, great question. For those truly big life shakes, like, say, taking on a new leadership role in a completely different industry sector you know nothing about, or orchestrating a major move from, I don't know, a quiet rural town in Vermont to a bustling city like Seattle for a big tech opportunity.
Okay, huge changes.
Huge changes. Dr. Julie Smith provides a clear, adaptable roadmap for these too. And guess what? It's built on the exact same foundational principles we've been talking about. Start small, celebrate progress, and watch habits form.
Okay, same principles, bigger scale.
Exactly. So instead of feeling completely overwhelmed by the entire task of, say, unpacking your entire new Seattle apartment, which just feels impossible, you start with just one box, maybe the kitchen box so you can make coffee.
Good plan. Coffee first.
Always. You celebrate the small win of completing that single box. Check it off the mental list. Feel that tiny bit of accomplishment. The next day, you tackle another box, maybe just one more. This incremental, consistent approach makes overwhelming transitions incredibly manageable. It breaks it down. It's kind of akin to what we often see in a hero's journey narrative, right? Think about entrepreneurs in volatile U.S. markets, maybe launching something in a really uncertain economy. They face immense pressure, constant uncertainty. They learn to pivot and find success, not usually through one grand stroke of genius or some immediate burst of massive motivation, but through persistence, through small strategic actions, through the continuous incremental building of new habits and capabilities. They start with the minimum viable product, right? Get crucial feedback, iterate, steadily build momentum. That sustained effort driven by small, consistent actions is what truly turns an underdog into a champion. And it's what helps us navigate these profound, often scary life changes. Start small, keep going.
So the big takeaway here for you listening is you don't have to wait for motivation to magically strike like lightning. You actually have the power to actively create it. By consciously taking small, deliberate steps, you effectively turn your to-do list mountain or your unpacking the entire house mountain into a series of climbable, manageable hills. It's about empowering yourself to just get moving and trusting that the drive, the motivation, will follow the action. We're really just scratching the surface of these powerful ideas from Dr. Smith. If you're enjoying this deep dive, finding it useful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share it. It helps others find this content that can truly change perspective. Now, let's tackle the tricky, often unavoidable waters of emotional pain. All right, let's shift our focus now to something perhaps even more fundamental and certainly universally challenging in the human experience: emotional pain. Dr. Smith uses this great analogy. Imagine your emotions, especially the difficult ones, like wild ocean waves. They can come crashing in, feeling incredibly powerful, utterly unpredictable sometimes. And if you ignore them or try to suppress them, push them down, they can feel like they're pulling you under, overwhelming you, consuming you.
Yeah, that undertow feeling.
Exactly. But, she suggests, with the right skills and understanding, these powerful waves are actually rideable. You don't have to drown in them.
That analogy is so apt, isn't it? It really captures the power, but also the potential for navigation. And what's truly profound here, I think, is Dr. Julie Smith's core message about pain. She says, we can't just wish pain away. It's an undeniable part of being human.
Okay, accepting it's part of life.
Yes. And that perspective is incredibly liberating because so much of our societal conditioning, and often our own internal monologue too, tells us to avoid pain, numb it, suppress it. We're taught to be strong or just get over it,
Oh,
right?
yeah, stiff upper lip.
Exactly. But Dr. Smith insists that emotions, even painful ones, are not enemies to be conquered. They are, in fact, messengers, valuable messengers. This idea resonates deeply. It connects modern therapeutic insights back to, ancient philosophies which often emphasized acceptance of suffering as an inherent part of existence. It also ties into the big shift in therapy that happened around the 1970s cognitive revolution. That's when the focus really shifted towards understanding how our thoughts and interpretations fundamentally influence our emotions.
Right, how we think about things matters.
Immensely. We began to view emotions not as these irrational forces just happening to us, things to be conquered, but as valuable data, crucial information about our internal states and our interactions with the world around us. To give this some real-world context, consider the intense frustration many people feel after, say, a particularly contentious political debate here in the U.S. That feeling is palpable.
Yeah, definitely.
Or think about the pervasive stress, the anxiety of trying to navigate a complex, often bewildering healthcare system, finding doctors, dealing with insurance.
Ugh, yes, that's stressful.
These are not merely unpleasant feelings to be suppressed or ignored. That frustration, it tells you something vital about your values, your sense of justice, or what you perceive as important societal challenges that aren't being met. That stress from the healthcare system, it signals something profoundly important about the difficulties you're facing and perhaps an unmet need for support or clarity or maybe systemic change. They are signals that something significant is happening, prompting you to engage with them, to understand them, rather than instinctively running away.
That's such a powerful reframing. Okay, so emotions are messengers, valuable information, not adversaries to be fought. Got it. So, when those powerful waves of emotion, sadness, anger, frustration hit, what are Dr. Smith's dynamic strategies for actually engaging with them, for riding them, like she says, rather than being swept away or trying to, build a dam against them?
Right. When intense feelings hit, Dr. Smith offers actionable advice that often runs counter to our initial instinct, which is usually to avoid or distract ourselves immediately. Her first crucial step is to sit with them, rather than instantly running away.
Sit with the discomfort. Oof.
Yeah, oof is right. It means intentionally allowing yourself to feel the discomfort, the sadness, the anger, the anxiety, without judging it, without immediate attempts to escape it or change it. It's about acknowledging its presence first. Okay, sadness is here. Second, she advises us to name them. Label the emotion.
Just give it a name.
Yes. The simple act of labeling, of saying internally or even aloud if it helps, I feel sadness or I feel anger or this is anxiety I'm feeling, it actually reduces their amorphous, overwhelming power. It externalizes them slightly. It allows you to observe them with a degree of separation rather than being entirely consumed by them. I feel sad is different from I am sad.
Subtle but important distinction.
Very. Third, she encourages us to let them flow, much like allowing a river to run its natural course rather than trying to dam it up. Because what happens when you dam a river?
Pressure builds, eventually it breaks through, maybe floods.
Exactly. Damming emotions only increases the internal pressure and eventually leads to a more turbulent overflow later. Letting them flow prevents them from building up into bigger tempests. Furthermore, she delves deeply into what she calls the superpower of words. How we talk to ourselves matters immensely. By consciously reframing your inner narrative, shifting from a global, defeating statement like, I'm completely overwhelmed and I can't possibly cope, to a more empowering, nuanced one like, okay, this is tough right now and I feel overwhelmed, but I have tools and I've navigated difficult situations before. You actively change your psychological relationship with the emotion.
So you're not denying the feeling, but changing the story around it.
Precisely. It isn't about pretending you don't feel bad. It's about empowering yourself with a different, more constructive perspective on your ability to handle it. For instance, consider a parent, maybe in a bustling U.S. household, juggling a full-time job alongside the relentless demands of childcare and household chores, a very common scenario.
Yeah, for sure.
They might feel a sudden, crushing wave of overwhelm hit them mid-afternoon. Instead of just letting that feeling consume them, maybe spiraling into thoughts of inadequacy like, I'm failing at everything, they might pause, label it. Okay, this is stress, this is frustration. Acknowledge its presence, and then consciously reframe it. This is a challenging moment, and I feel really stretched thin right now. But I have successfully navigated tough situations like this before. And you know what? I can take a small 5-minute break right now just to collect myself.
Okay. Label, acknowledge, reframe, maybe take a small action.
That small shift in internal language, that brief pause for self-compassion, can provide a crucial sense of agency and control, even when the external demands haven't changed.
And it's so vital to remember, isn't it, that we don't have to face these intense emotional waves entirely alone. Especially now, you mentioned it before, this paradox of our time, this connected yet lonely 2025 era. Genuine human connection can sometimes feel scarce despite being constantly plugged in.
Indeed, it's a huge paradox. In our contemporary, connected yet lonely 2025 era, Dr. Smith profoundly stresses the vital importance of both supporting others and, crucially, seeking support for ourselves when we need it. And her key advice for supporting someone else who is in pain, it's remarkable in its simplicity and effectiveness. She says, listen without fixing.
Listen without fixing. That's harder than it sounds sometimes.
Isn't it, though? Our well-meaning instinct, often when someone is sharing their pain, is to jump in immediately with solutions. Offer advice. Try and make them feel better right now. Cheer them up.
Yeah, solve the problem.
But what people often need most, in those moments of raw emotional distress, is simply to be heard, to be seen, to be validated in their experience, to feel like their pain is acknowledged and accepted, not dismissed or minimized. This empathetic, non-judgmental listening becomes an invaluable lifeline, whether it's in face-to-face conversations, virtual chats, or even supportive community forums online. Genuine, attentive presence can cut through the superficiality of digital noise like nothing else. Imagine you have a friend, maybe living in a tight-knit community down in Texas, who's going through a really tough time after a sudden layoff, a big shock.
Okay.
Instead of immediately jumping to, have you updated your resume? Have you checked LinkedIn? Did you call this person? Which might be helpful later. Maybe the best thing you could do right now is just listen empathetically over a video call. Validate their feelings. Wow, that sounds incredibly scary and frustrating. Offer your compassionate presence. Let them talk, let them vent, let them cry, without you needing to make it all okay immediately. That can be profoundly impactful in that moment.
Yeah, just being there.
It reflects this growing fundamental need for genuine, unadulterated human connection in an increasingly virtual world across all U.S. communities. It reminds us that sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is simply our focused, compassionate attention and a safe space to feel whatever they're feeling.
For me, the real drama peak, as you put it earlier, is realizing that avoidance just amplifies the pain. Running from it, pushing it down, trying to distract ourselves 24/7, it actually makes it bigger, not smaller in the long run. It gives it more power over us.
Exactly right. The drama peaks in that profound realization that avoidance amplifies pain. It's a totally self-defeating strategy, because when we avoid difficult emotions, we deny ourselves the crucial opportunity to process them. And in doing so, we inadvertently teach our brains that these emotions are too dangerous, too overwhelming to confront, which, ironically, makes us even more fearful of them the next time they arise. It builds sensitivity.
It becomes a vicious cycle.
Precisely. But the genuinely good news, the empowering part, is that facing pain head-on builds resilience. By consciously allowing ourselves to experience these difficult emotions, to sit with them, to name them, to process them, maybe talk about them, we actually develop an inherent internal strength. We learn through experience that we can endure, that we can ride those powerful waves, and that ultimately this process transforms emotional chaos, as she puts it, into calm seas. It's not about wishing for the absence of storms in life because storms will come. It's about developing the essential skills, the confidence, the internal resources to navigate them effectively, and emerging stronger, wiser, more resilient on the other side.
So, you listening, you have the innate ability, or at least the capacity to develop the ability, to confront your emotional waves, to name them, ride them skillfully, rather than being pulled under by their force. And this process, though difficult, builds an inner strength you might not even know you possessed right now. It fundamentally transforms how you experience and navigate your own emotional landscape. It's about empowering yourself to face life head-on with all its inevitable pain and joy. Wow. This deep dive is really all about giving you that missing manual for mental health. If you're finding these lessons impactful, really hitting home, please remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe share this with someone you know who needs to hear this message. Up next, we navigate the profound, often bewildering, and deeply personal territory of grief. Okay, moving into another deeply human experience, one that's often intensely painful and truly universal. We come to grief. Dr. Julie Smith vividly describes grief not just as a feeling, but as something that can feel like a thief in the night. Something that abruptly steals joy, maybe shatters your sense of normalcy, and leaves behind this raw and real void.
It's an experience that, let's face it, almost every single person listening will face at some point, likely multiple times, in their lives. And when it arrives, it can feel utterly overwhelming, disorienting, like the ground is shifted beneath your feet.
What's profoundly compassionate and I think really expansive about Dr. Julie Smith's approach is her definition of grief. She beautifully defines it as love's echo for what's lost.
Love's echo.
Wow.
Isn't that powerful? It's not just a poetic phrase. It's a crucial broadening of our typical understanding. She insists that grief isn't limited solely to the death of a loved one, which is how we traditionally conceive it.
Yeah, usually death.
But she argues it extends to the loss of people, dreams, or stability. This expanded perspective is incredibly important because it validates countless experiences that people might not explicitly categorize as grief, yet feel exactly like it. They carry that same weight, that same sense of loss. Think about the pervasive sense of collective loss that was felt across the U.S. during the height of the pandemic. It wasn't just the tragic, heartbreaking loss of human lives, which was immense.
Right.
It was also the widespread loss of familiar routines, the sudden and unnerving absence of a fundamental sense of security, the loss of physical connection, and even the heartbreaking loss of future plans. Maybe a long-anticipated wedding that had to be canceled or drastically altered, a cherished college experience postponed indefinitely, or the sudden, unanticipated end of a long-held career path due to economic shifts.
So many kinds of loss.
Exactly. This loss of stability, this loss of a future we had envisioned, that is absolutely a genuine form of grief. And Dr. Smith helps us recognize, acknowledge, and validate these often unseen, often unspoken facets of loss. It gives people permission to grieve things beyond death.
But that makes so much sense. We really do tend to narrow grief down to just that one very specific thing, death, but it's clearly so much more expansive. It encompasses this whole wide array of significant losses. Now, when we talk about grief, many people, myself included, immediately think of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's famous 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining. You know the ones. How does Dr. Smith build on that foundational work? Because it's been so influential for decades.
That's a great point about Kubler-Ross, and it really allows us to connect this discussion to how our understanding of grief has evolved over time.
Mm.
We certainly ground our understanding in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's groundbreaking 1969 stages:
Mhm.
denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Those stages provided an absolutely crucial initial framework. They gave many people, for the first time really, a language and a structure to understand the chaotic and often bewildering internal process of grieving.
Right, to give us landmarks.
Exactly, landmarks in a confusing territory. However, Dr. Smith adds a vital and deeply compassionate layer of nuance to this understanding. She emphasizes that grief is not linear, but a swirling path.
That swirling path, okay.
This provides a far more realistic and I think a much more human view of the experience. It acknowledges that individuals rarely, if ever, move neatly and predictably from one stage to the next in some kind of stepwise fashion.
Yeah, it never felt linear to me.
Right? Instead, you might cycle back and forth. You might experience intense waves of different emotions, sadness one moment, maybe anger the next, perhaps a brief moment of acceptance or even numbness, then back to sadness unexpectedly, sometimes even all within the same day or the same hour.
Totally.
This nonlinear understanding deeply validates the complex, often messy, and frequently chaotic reality of the grief experience. If you've experienced significant grief, you know intuitively that it doesn't follow a neat timeline or a predictable, orderly progression. Dr. Smith acknowledges this inherent complexity. She validates your unique experience and essentially lets you know that whatever you're feeling, however jumbled or out of order it seems compared to those stages, is a perfectly normal and valid part of your personal grieving process. There's no right way.
So if it is indeed a swirling path, not a straight line, what kind of practical roadmap or guide does Dr. Smith offer for actively moving through it? Not around it, but through it. What are the concrete, active tasks involved in mourning, as she puts it?
Right. Dr. Julie Smith outlines what she calls mourning's tasks, based on the work of psychologist William Wharton. And it's critical to emphasize, as you said, that these are not passive expectations, things that just happen to you over time. They are active engagements with the loss, things you
Well, then
do.
it's tasks. Okay.
These tasks provide a kind of structural framework for healing, a way to navigate that swirling path.
Mhm.
First, you must accept the reality of the loss. This means truly acknowledging, both intellectually and emotionally, that what was is profoundly no longer. The person, the dream, the situation, it's gone in its previous form. Second, you need to process the pain of grief. This is the hard part. It means allowing yourself to feel the intense, often overwhelming emotions, the sadness, the anger, the despair, the guilt, whatever comes up, without trying to suppress them or immediately escape them. You have to feel it to heal it, essentially.
You need to heal it. Okay.
Third, you must adjust to a new environment without the lost entity. This involves the challenging, often practical work of adapting to life in the absence of the person, dream, or stability that was lost. It might mean learning new roles, developing new skills, figuring out how to navigate the world differently. And finally, the fourth task is to find an enduring connection with the lost and move on with life. Notice it's not move on from life or forget. It's finding a new way to connect, maybe through memory, legacy, or internal representation, while still reinvesting in your own ongoing life.
Enduring connection. I like that phrasing.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's not about forgetting or erasing what was. It's about integrating the loss into your life narrative in a way that allows for forward movement, carrying the memory and the love with you, transforming it into a part of who you are now. What's particularly fascinating here, again, is the emphasis on the active nature of these tasks. It's not passive waiting for time to magically heal all wounds, although time is a factor. It's an intentional, active engagement with the healing process itself.
And what about the practical pillars of support we need during such a profound, often isolating time? How do we find strength and connection when we often feel so utterly broken, maybe even alienated from the world that just keeps spinning?
That feeling of isolation is so common in grief. Dr. Smith very clearly points to self-care and connections as the indispensable pillars of strength during this time. These elements, she argues, are especially vital in 2025's post-pandemic world, where we've collectively experienced so much loss, so much uncertainty, and for many significant periods of isolation that may have weakened support networks.
Right, the need is maybe even greater now.
Possibly. She thoughtfully references collective healing stories, like global memorials, or community vigils that have emerged in response to widespread tragedy. These shared rituals can inspire hope and powerfully remind us that we are profoundly not alone in our suffering, even when grief feels intensely personal. To put this into a relatable context here in the U.S., consider how communities across the country have come together in the wake of collective trauma or loss. This might manifest through, say, virtual support groups formed for specific types of losses, maybe groups for parents who've lost a child, or groups for people who lost jobs in a specific industry downturn, or local memorial events in small towns to honor first responders or beloved local figures lost too soon.
Those shared experiences matter.
They really do.
Yeah.
And beyond that collective action, personal self-care during grief. It can look incredibly simple, yet be profoundly important. It might be daily, gentle walks in a local park, finding solace in a creative hobby like painting or playing an instrument during a period of intense mourning. Or sometimes it's simply prioritizing basic physiological needs, trying to maintain consistent nutrition, hydration, and adequate sleep when everything else feels overwhelmingly difficult and chaotic. These connections, both personal and communal, and these deliberate acts of self-care, they are not luxuries in grief. Dr. Smith positions them as fundamental, non-negotiable necessities for navigating the profound darkness and eventually, hopefully, emerging from it.
And ultimately, this difficult, often painful journey of grief, while it changes you forever, it can paradoxically lead to something more profound, can't it? She calls it a tale of transformation.
Yes, that's the ultimate trajectory she describes, though maybe not everyone reaches it or experiences it the same way. While grief's grip can feel suffocating and endless, particularly in the early stages, Dr. Smith explains that eventually, for many, it loosens, revealing growth and renewed purpose. Now, this isn't about forgetting the loss, not at all, nor is it about somehow replacing what was lost with something new and pretending it's the same.
Right. It's not about replacement.
No. Instead, it's about integrating the experience of loss and the love that grief represents, that echo of love, into your larger life narrative in a way that allows for forward movement. Often, this incredibly difficult process leads to a deeper appreciation for life itself, maybe a clearer and more refined sense of what truly matters to you now, and, frequently, a renewed sense of purpose that might be born directly from the crucible of profound change, loss, and resilience.
So grief can feel like the most isolating experience imaginable, but understanding its true nature, that swirling path, those active tasks, offers a kind of pathway through the darkness. It helps you hopefully transform profound loss into a source of enduring love, deeper self-awareness, and often even new purpose. It's about finding an unexpected strength, maybe, in your most vulnerable moments. We're exploring some incredibly deep and vital topics here today. If this conversation resonates with you, if you're finding value, please show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing this deep dive. That helps us continue these conversations. Next up, we confront a very common, often debilitating internal adversary: self-doubt. Okay, let's talk about something that I suspect almost every single person listening can profoundly relate to, maybe on a daily basis, and something that Dr. Julie Smith tackles head-on: self-doubt. We live in what she accurately describes as a spotlight world in 2025. I mean, with constant online presence, social media feeds, performance metrics at work, it feels like every like or comment judges, doesn't it?
Yeah, the scrutiny feels constant.
And this relentless, often unseen scrutiny makes it incredibly easy for self-doubt to creep in like a shadow doubter. It's that nagging, insidious voice inside your head that whispers you're not quite good enough, that you'll probably be destined to fail, or that you fundamentally don't belong here, wherever here is. Imposter syndrome territory.
That analogy of the shadow doubter is so powerful, isn't it? It really captures that persistent, lurking quality. What's truly illuminating here is Dr. Julie Smith's direct and I think deeply empowering approach to handling this pervasive foe, both the internal critic and the external judgments that fuel it. She teaches us to handle all forms of criticism by doing something quite specific. Weighing it against our values. Keep what's useful, ditch the rest.
Weighing it against values.
Yeah. This isn't a passive suggestion. It's a crucial active filtering mechanism. It's about not blindly accepting every negative thought that pops into your head or every critical comment someone makes as gospel truth. Instead, you actively evaluate its validity and, more importantly, its relevance to your core identity, your personal values, your true goals. Is this actually helpful feedback, or is it just noise? Historically, if we trace this need for external validation back, you can see hints of its origins in evolutionary psychology, where social approval was often directly linked to survival, right?
Right, being part of the tribe.
Exactly. In tribal times, being accepted by the group, conforming, was literally a matter of life or death sometimes. Ostracization meant peril. You needed the group. But Dr. Smith argues that we need to evolve this ancient wiring into a framework for modern self-reliance. She emphasizes that in our incredibly complex, interconnected, yet often highly individualistic world, internal validation, a sense of worth rooted in our own personal values and authentic self, is far more crucial and sustainable than chasing fleeting external approval.
So relying less on the likes and more on your internal compass.
Precisely. To paint a picture,
Hmm.
imagine a young professional. Maybe they're in a highly competitive U.S. industry, let's say finance on Wall Street, or perhaps in a cutting-edge tech startup down in Austin, Texas.
Okay. High pressure.
Very high pressure. They receive what feels like harsh, maybe even unfair feedback on a performance review. Their first instinct might be panic or shame or defensiveness. Instead of instantly internalizing all of it as a personal failing, I'm terrible at my job, Dr. Smith would suggest they learn to filter that feedback through their core values. They might ask themselves questions like, is this feedback genuinely constructive and aligned with my personal growth goals? Is it pointing out a real area where I can improve according to my standards? Or they might ask, is it merely someone else's projection, maybe their own expectations, their own insecurities, or just a mismatch in style? Is it truly useful information for me, or is it just critical noise I can safely disregard? This active discernment, this thoughtful filtering, is absolutely vital for maintaining self-worth in the face of judgment.
That's a huge shift from how many of us instinctively approach criticism, isn't it? We often tend to just absorb it all, take it very personally, let it define us.
Yeah.
So if we're aiming to build that genuine, robust confidence that comes from within, not from external praise, what's Dr. Smith's actionable blueprint? How do we actually build that confidence?
Dr. Julie Smith provides an incredibly insightful blueprint for confidence that is both eminently practical and, importantly, deeply compassionate. It recognizes the inherent difficulties we face in doing this. It's built upon three interconnected pillars. First, she says, practice skills to systematically build competence. Confidence often follows competence. The more you engage with a task, the more you practice, the more you refine your abilities, the more proficient you become. And competence quite naturally effectively erodes self-doubt in that specific area. You know you can do it because you've done it.
Okay, so competence builds confidence. Makes sense.
Second, she urges us really strongly to embrace failures as lessons, not as definitive endpoints, or, worse, proof of our fundamental inadequacy. This is a truly radical reframe for many people.
Failure as lessons. That's hard.
It is hard,
Yeah.
but crucial. Failures aren't evidence of your unworthiness. They are invaluable data points. They offer crucial insights, maybe showing you what doesn't work, guiding you toward better approaches next time. They're opportunities for iteration, learning, and ultimately growth. Third, and critically, she emphasizes the need to cultivate self-kindness. This means intentionally treating yourself with the same compassion, the same understanding, the same patience you would readily offer a good friend who is struggling or who just made a mistake.
Talk to yourself like a friend.
Exactly. This reassures you, the listener, that you're not defined by slip-ups. They're simply plot twists in your story. They're not the final verdict on your capabilities or your worth. They're just moments of growth and learning in your unique personal narrative. Consider an aspiring artist. Maybe they live in a vibrant creative hub like Brooklyn, New York, or perhaps Portland, Oregon. They're putting their heart and soul into their work, but they experience frequent rejection from galleries or receive really critical feedback online.
Yeah, that's tough for creatives.
Incredibly tough.
Yeah.
Dr. Smith's advice would be, first, to keep practicing their craft diligently. Don't give up after one setback, or 10, or 50. View each rejection not as a personal indictment, I'm a terrible artist, but as a learning experience. What can I learn from this? Does it help refine my technique, adapt my approach, maybe seek a different audience or venue? And most importantly, she'd advise them to actively avoid that negative, harsh self-talk. I'll never make it, my work is trash. Instead, be kind and patient with themselves, especially during creative blocks or moments of intense frustration or disappointment. This cultivation of self-kindness is the absolute bedrock of sustained confidence and resilience, especially in fields with lots of rejection.
It sounds like the real key here, the true game changer, is fundamentally understanding where that feeling of enough actually comes from. It's not something you acquire from external sources, is it? Like collecting gold stars.
Exactly right. You nail it. The critical, perhaps even liberating realization Dr. Smith brings us to is that feeling enough, truly, deeply enough, comes from within, not external cheers. This is a profound counter-narrative to the prevailing culture of external validation that we're all constantly swimming in, especially online. In 2025, while those perfectly curated social media feeds still dominate and project an often unrealistic image of effortless perfection and constant happiness, there's also a powerful and growing counter-movement. You see influencers sharing unfiltered journeys.
Yeah, the real talk movement.
Exactly. These individuals openly discuss their struggles, their imperfections, their moments of vulnerability, their learning curves, their messy realities. They are, in essence, proving that authenticity wins, that realness resonates. This shift highlights Dr. Smith's crucial point. Genuine connection, which comes from authenticity and profound self-acceptance, born from internal validation, ultimately trumps superficial likes, comments, and fleeting external approval every single time in the long run. Compare the highly edited social media persona common across the U.S., designed to project that image of unattainable perfection and constant joy, to the growing trend of these real talk content creators who share the messy, imperfect realities of life, career challenges, mental health struggles.
It's much more relatable.
Totally. This stark contrast illustrates Dr. Smith's point perfectly. Your intrinsic worth, your inherent value as a human being, is far more valuable and enduring than any fleeting external validation you might receive. It's about building an internal compass you can trust, rather than constantly looking outside yourself for direction or approval.
And the culmination of all this wisdom, all these strategies, it really leads to a genuine sense of empowerment, doesn't it? Finally shaking off that persistent shadow doubter that's been whispering in your ear for so long.
Absolutely. The narrative ultimately builds towards empowerment. Shake off doubt, step into your power, and shine brighter. It's about recognizing that you possess the inherent agency to challenge those insidious inner voices. You can systematically build a robust sense of self-worth that is grounded in your own authentic actions, your competence, and your deeply held values. And you can learn to move through the world with a profound confidence that isn't dependent on what others think, say, or how they react to you. It's about achieving a kind of self-sovereignty in your own mental landscape.
So this deep dive really empowers you, the listener, to break free from the grasp of that shadow doubter, to truly trust your own judgment more often, and to recognize that your inherent worth is intrinsic. It's just there. It's not dependent on external approval or fleeting accolades. It's about genuinely owning who you are, flaws and strengths and all, and moving forward with a sense of purpose and self-acceptance. We sincerely hope you're feeling more empowered with each chapter we unpack. To ensure you don't miss any future deep dives into transformative books like this, please take a second to like, subscribe, and share this episode. Now let's face another fundamental, often overwhelming human experience. Fear. All right, let's turn our attention now to fear, that primal, visceral emotion, the one that can make your heart race like a drum. The one that whispers dangers both real and imagined in your ear. Whether it's the debilitating fear of failure, the unsettling fear of the unknown, maybe the paralyzing grip of social anxiety before an event, fear can often feel like this overwhelming, uncontrollable beast, dictating our actions and significantly limiting our lives.
That's a powerful description. Uncontrollable beast. And it often feels that way. But what's truly eliminating here is how Dr. Julie Smith approaches fear. She fundamentally debunks the myth of banishing it entirely, which is a common goal, isn't it? I just want to be fearless. But it's often a futile one.
Yeah, it sounds impossible.
Right. Instead, she offers us pragmatic, accessible tools to tame the beast. Not eliminate it, but tame it, manage it. This distinction is crucial because fear at its very core is not actually an enemy to be eradicated. It's a deeply wired protective mechanism. It evolved for a very good reason. If we connect this to the bigger picture again, historical insights from 1930s stress research clearly defined the fight-or-flight response, Walter Cannon's work. It showed us that this physiological reaction, the racing heart, the rapid breathing, the muscle tension, is exquisitely wired for protection.
To keep us safe from tigers, basically.
Essentially, yeah. It's an ancient system, honed over millennia, designed to keep us safe from genuine, immediate physical threats, like tigers. To illustrate this in a modern context, consider the incredibly common fear of public speaking. It's consistently ranked as one of the top fears people have.
Oh yeah, terrifying for many.
Whether it's giving a brief presentation at a local PTA meeting in your suburban town or delivering a major keynote speech at a huge corporate conference in Las Vegas, your heart races, your palms sweat, your voice might tremble, you might feel shaky. This is your body's ancient protective mechanism kicking into high gear. It's mistakenly perceiving the audience or the act of speaking itself as a significant, perhaps even life-threatening danger. Your body doesn't know the difference between a judgmental audience and a saber-toothed cat sometimes.
Okay, so it's a misfiring alarm system.
Often, yes. The fundamental problem arises when this protective system goes into overdrive, triggering these intense physical and emotional responses in situations where no actual physical threat exists. And this can lead to debilitating anxiety loops, where we get trapped in a cycle of worrying about perceived dangers, worrying about the anxiety itself, which then fuels more anxiety. It's exhausting.
So if trying to banish fear completely is a futile endeavor, maybe even undesirable because it is protective sometimes, and if our protective system can sometimes go into overdrive, what are the common pitfalls we need to actively avoid when fear strikes? And what are the immediate practical calmers Dr. Smith suggests to bring us back down, back to a place of equilibrium?
Right. Dr. Julie Smith very clearly warns against pitfalls like avoidance, which actually feeds the monster. Avoidance is fear's best friend.
Avoidance feeds it. How so?
Because when we consciously avoid situations, conversations, people, or even feelings that trigger fear, we inadvertently send a powerful message to our brain. See, that situation was dangerous. It was right to avoid it. This reinforces the fear, making it grow stronger and more entrenched over time. The more you avoid, the scarier it becomes.
Ah, okay. So avoidance confirms the fear.
Exactly. Instead of avoiding, she offers readily available instant calmers techniques that can effectively interrupt these escalating anxiety loops right in the moment. These include deep breaths, not just any breathing, but simple, deliberate, diaphragmatic breathing exercises. Slowing the breath down sends a powerful signal directly to your nervous system that you are, in fact, safe and in control, counteracting the fight-or-flight response. Another fantastic technique is grounding senses. This involves intentionally focusing your attention outwards onto your immediate physical environment using your 5 senses. What can you see, hear, smell, touch, taste?
Taking you out of your head.
Precisely. It pulls you out of the swirling vortex of anxious thoughts and firmly anchors you back into the present moment, the physical reality. Which is incredibly helpful because in most modern scenarios where anxiety spikes, real immediate danger is likely completely absent. These grounding techniques are perfect for navigating the unique digital demands and pressures of 2025, too. Imagine the stress, again, of a high-stakes virtual meeting. Maybe you're on a remote team distributed across different U.S. time zones, presenting to senior leadership.
Okay, stressful.
Very. When a wave of anxiety hits just before you need to speak, you feel that panic rising. Simply focusing on the sensation of your feet planted firmly on the floor beneath you, or intentionally noticing 5 distinct things you can see in your immediate vicinity, the color of your mug, the texture of your desk, or taking just 3 slow, deep, conscious breaths before you unmute yourself to speak. That can be a profoundly effective grounding technique. It creates a moment of pause, a break in the loop.
Okay, deep breaths, grounding senses. What about those incessant, anxious thoughts themselves? The ones that swirl around our heads, often amplifying the fear, making it feel even more real and inevitable. How does Dr. Smith suggest we actively tackle those pervasive thought patterns?
Right, because the physical sensations are only part of it. The thoughts are huge. This brings us to a really important cognitive aspect of managing fear. Dr. Smith teaches us how to directly tackle anxious thoughts by questioning them. Become a detective of your own thoughts.
Questioning them, like cross-examining them.
Kind of, yeah. Instead of passively accepting every fearful thought that pops into your head as an undisputed fact, this presentation will be a disaster, everyone will think I'm an idiot,
Hmm?
you learn to become an active interrogator. Ask yourself, is this fear based on actual evidence, or is it just a feeling? Is this truly a likely scenario, or am I catastrophizing? What concrete evidence do I actually have for this specific negative prediction? Okay, let's imagine the worst that could realistically happen. How would I actually cope with that? What resources do I have?
Challenging the thought's validity.
Exactly. This process of critical thinking, of challenging the often exaggerated narrative of fear, can powerfully dismantle irrational anxieties. It brings perspective. Furthermore, she profoundly emphasizes the importance of facing inevitable fears, like change with acceptance. Some fears are deeply rooted in the natural impermanence and unpredictability of life itself. Jobs change. Relationships evolve or end. Health fluctuates. Circumstances shift constantly.
Change is the only constant, right?
That's the cliché, but it's true. Resisting this fundamental reality of change, fighting against it, only intensifies the fear and suffering associated with it. Accepting that change is a constant and unavoidable part of human existence, sometimes painful, sometimes exciting, often both, can fundamentally shift your perspective. It moves you from a place of dread and resistance to one of greater adaptability and resilience. Take, for example, the widespread fear of job loss in an uncertain economy, a very common, very real concern for many across the U.S. right now.
Understandably so.
You might find yourself catastrophizing, jumping to extreme what-if scenarios. What if I never find another job again? What if I lose my house? What if my life is ruined? By actively questioning the probability and validity of these extreme, often unlikely outcomes, and by accepting that change, including career transitions, is an inevitable and often actually opportunity-filled part of modern professional life, you can begin to significantly loosen fear's debilitating grip. It doesn't make the uncertainty disappear, but it helps you regain a sense of proactive control and agency.
So it's really about learning to navigate that often turbulent internal journey, moving from that initial state of panic or dread to a place of greater composure, clarity, and maybe even courage.
Precisely. She describes it as an adrenaline-fueled adventure from panic to poise. Maybe not always an adventure we'd choose, but one we can learn to navigate. It's about systematically learning to differentiate between genuine, immediate danger, the tiger, and the vast majority of imagined, exaggerated, or future-based threats that fuel most modern anxiety. By doing so, you gain the profound ability to calm your nervous system when needed, to access your rational mind even when feeling afraid, and then to face life's myriad challenges with greater composure, clarity, and effectiveness. Rather than being paralyzed or constantly driven by an automatic, outdated fear response, you learn not just to survive the wave of fear, but to skillfully ride it, using its energy when appropriate and calming it when it's just noise.
Wow. Okay. Taming the beast, not eliminating it. This deep dive offers such incredible insights, things that can genuinely improve your daily life and your emotional experience. If you're finding value in this conversation, please hit that like button, subscribe for more transformative content like this, and maybe share this episode with your network. Next up, we explore the dual, often misunderstood, nature of stress. Is it always bad? Let's find out. All right, let's talk about stress, something we all experience constantly, right? It feels like the background noise of modern life sometimes, and we often view it as this universally negative force, something to be avoided at all costs. But Dr. Julie Smith begins by observing that stress actually hits like a lightning bolt. It can be energizing or exhausting, depending on the strike.
Interesting analogy.
Yeah, she boldly challenges the widespread perception that stress is inherently bad, suggesting it has a much more complex kind of dual nature. It's not all one thing.
That's a crucial starting point, isn't it? Because it really does flip a common narrative completely on its head. What's genuinely fascinating here is Dr. Julie Smith's clarifying distinction. She says, it's not always anxiety's twin. It's often a crucial boost for challenges. Stress can actually help us.
A boost? How so?
She introduces us to the work of Hans Selye, a pioneering stress researcher from the 1930s. He made this critical distinction between good stress, which he called eustress, and bad stress, which he termed distress.
Eustress and distress. Okay.
Eustress is the invigorating kind of stress, the kind that actually sharpens your focus, heightens your awareness, motivates you, and can significantly enhance your performance when you need it. It's that feeling of heightened alertness, maybe even excitement you get before a big presentation you care about, or a challenging athletic competition, or maybe tackling a complex creative project that pushes your boundaries. It gets you up for the challenge.
Okay, so like game day stress.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. Distress, on the other hand, is the chronic, overwhelming, debilitating kind of stress. The kind that drains our resources, wears us down physically and mentally, and feels like too much for too long. To give you a clear example, consider the palpable eustress of preparing for a major presentation at a professional conference, let's say in Chicago. The pressure to perform well, the approaching deadline, the anticipation of sharing your ideas. These elements actively sharpen your focus, they elevate your cognitive function, they motivate you to prepare thoroughly, and they often contribute to a successful, impactful outcome. This is stress working for you. It enhances performance.
Right. Helps you rise to the occasion.
Precisely. Now contrast that with the distress of, say, chronic financial worries that keep you up at night, or an overwhelming, unending workload without clear boundaries or support, or being trapped in a toxic work environment with constant negativity. That's the draining, damaging kind. The key insight here, Dr. Smith argues, is that simply trying to reduce all stress isn't necessarily the fix and might even be counterproductive. Often, balance and perception are key. It's about understanding the nature of the stressor, how long it lasts, and crucially, how we perceive and manage our response to it.
Okay, so stress can actually be a good thing sometimes, a powerful motivator that pushes us to excel. But when does it cross that crucial line? When does it turn sour, becoming detrimental to our well-being, turning into that distress?
Right. Dr. Smith delves deeply into when stress turns sour.
Yeah.
And it often manifests as what she terms chronic overload in fast-tech lives. Sound familiar?
Oh yeah, chronic overload. Check.
The modern challenges of being perpetually always on, with the relentless blurring of lines between our professional and personal lives. These are particularly acute and pervasive in 2025. It's harder than ever to switch off. Think about the incessant notifications from work apps, Slack, Teams, email pinging away outside of traditional working hours, or the widespread expectation, spoken or unspoken, to respond to emails late into the evening, or even on weekends, for professionals across the U.S.
Always available culture.
Exactly. Especially in industries notorious for demanding schedules like finance, law, tech startups, healthcare. This constant on switch, this lack of genuine downtime, without adequate breaks or clearly defined boundaries, that leads directly to burnout, mental exhaustion, physical problems, chronic distress. It systematically drains our mental, emotional, and physical resources. It transforms what could be a beneficial short-term boost, eustress, into a persistent, debilitating adversary, distress. It wears down the system.
That rings so incredibly true for so many of us living and working in today's demanding environment. It feels like the default sometimes. So if we can't completely eliminate all stress, and maybe we don't even want to because some of it is beneficial, how do we learn to effectively harness it? How do we prevent it from turning sour, from becoming this chronic overload that burns us out?
Dr. Smith offers concrete, actionable strategies for how to truly harness it, moving from being overwhelmed and managed by stress to being in control and managing it. The first and arguably most crucial strategy is to set boundaries. She identifies this as absolutely fundamental for protecting your mental and emotional space, your energy reserves.
Boundaries. Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, definitely, but crucial. This means consciously and deliberately deciding when and how you engage with work, with digital devices, with demanding people or situations, saying no sometimes, protecting your downtime fiercely. The second strategy is to prioritize tasks effectively to manage demands. This involves understanding that not everything is equally urgent or important, despite how it might feel. Learning to differentiate, to focus on what truly matters, and letting go of the rest, or delegating. Not everything requires your immediate, intense focus.
Okay, prioritize ruthlessly.
Yes. And the third strategy is a powerful cognitive one. Reframe pressures as growth ops, opportunities for growth.
Reframe pressure as growth. How does that work?
Instead of automatically viewing a challenging project, a tight deadline, or maybe negative feedback as solely a burden or a threat, you consciously choose to see it, at least partly, as an invaluable opportunity. An opportunity to develop new skills, to demonstrate your capabilities under pressure, to learn something new, or to expand your personal and professional growth. It's about shifting your internal narrative about the stressor. For example, consider an entrepreneur in Texas, maybe deeply involved in launching a new, risky startup. They're facing immense pressure.
Yeah, tons of stress there.
They might learn, through deliberate practice, to politely but firmly decline non-essential meetings or requests that don't directly align with their core priorities right now. They're setting a boundary to protect their focus time for critical business development. Or think about a student, maybe in a competitive university town like Boston or Palo Alto, facing the immense pressure of final exams. They might actively reframe this stressful period. Instead of seeing it only as an overwhelming threat to their sanity and GPA, they reframe it as a concentrated opportunity to demonstrate mastery of their subject, to consolidate their learning. This shifts their internal narrative from dread and panic to determination and focus. This proactive reframing is an incredibly powerful psychological tool for turning potential distress into productive eustress.
And what about when we are truly under fire? When stress feels unavoidable, maybe it's a crisis situation or just a period of relentless demands. How do we build resilience and effectively cope in those really intense moments?
Right. Coping under fire means building buffers, according to Dr. Smith. These buffers are essential.
Building buffers, like shock absorbers.
It's exactly like shock absorbers. These are not necessarily about eliminating the source of stress right then and there, which might be impossible. Instead, they're about creating personal resilience and providing consistent small moments of relief and recovery, even amidst intense pressure. They help you absorb the impact without shattering. A prominent and highly relevant example of this in 2025 is the widespread adoption of mindfulness apps trending in workplaces. You see this everywhere now.
Yeah, lots of companies offer those.
Many U.S. companies are now proactively offering subscriptions to mindfulness apps like Calm or Headspace as part of their employee wellness programs. They actively encourage quick, guided meditation breaks, simple breathing exercises, or short mindful moments during the workday. This allows employees, whether they're in busy corporate environments from the high-rises of New York City to the sprawling tech campuses in California, to actively create mental buffers against chronic stress, to find crucial moments of calm, mental clarity, and emotional regulation throughout the day. These intentional buffers, whether it's a 5-minute meditation, a quick walk outside, listening to music, connecting with a colleague, are absolutely essential for maintaining well-being and peak performance in high-demand, high-stress environments. They replenish the system bit by bit.
So it really is about learning to make stress work for you, not always against you. It's about consciously turning it into your ally, when possible, for achieving what you called earlier epic wins.
Absolutely. That's the goal. This deep dive profoundly reveals that stress isn't something to be universally feared or instinctively eliminated at all costs. Instead, it's a powerful, intrinsic force within us, a force that you can learn to manage, to master, and crucially, sometimes even to leverage. By doing so, you transform it from a source of exhaustion and overwhelm into a potential catalyst for achievement, growth, and sustained success. It's about optimizing your natural response to life's inevitable demands and challenges.
Wow. We're almost at the end of this incredible deep dive, covering so much ground. But there's one more profound, maybe the most important area to explore. If you found these insights valuable so far, please, one last reminder, give us a like, subscribe to Book Podcast Zone so you don't miss future episodes, and share this episode with friends and family who might benefit. Okay, let's talk about building a meaningful life. Here we are at the final destination, the culmination perhaps, of our deep dive today, and it's arguably the most profound and universally sought-after goal, the quest for a meaningful life. So often we're told, maybe implicitly through advertising or explicitly in self-help circles, that the ultimate goal is to be chasing happiness, that happiness is the prize.
The pursuit of happiness.
Right, but Dr. Julie Smith argues, quite persuasively I think, that this direct pursuit of happiness itself is often like grasping smoke, fleeting and frustrating. It's an elusive target. The more you chase it, the more it seems to slip away, and it can leave us feeling perpetually dissatisfied, always wanting that next hit of joy.
That's such a powerful observation because it really challenges a core assumption in modern Western society, doesn't it? What's genuinely transformative here is how Dr. Julie Smith shifts the quest to purpose. She directly questions the just be happy ideals that emerged so prominently from, say, positive psychology's 1990s boom. Now, positive psychology brought invaluable insights into well-being, focusing on strengths and positive emotions, which was a needed correction. But an overemphasis on constant happiness, she suggests, can unintentionally create an unrealistic expectation and maybe even immense pressure to feel happy all the time.
Yeah, the pressure to be positive.
Exactly. And this often leads to feelings of failure or inadequacy when life, as it invariably does, presents challenges, difficulties, and discomfort. If you're not happy, you feel like you're doing something wrong. Many people in the U.S., I think particularly younger generations, feel an intense societal pressure to always appear happy or positive, a narrative often relentlessly amplified by those curated, perfect-looking lives we see on social media.
A highlight reel again.
Always the highlight reel. Dr. Smith critically challenges this. She suggests that a life focused purely on chasing fleeting emotional highs on momentary happiness can actually lead to deeper dissatisfaction in the long run. Why? Because it often lacks an anchoring sense of purpose. It lacks a larger framework that gives context and meaning to both the joy and the struggle. A meaningful life, she argues, is not about achieving a constant state of euphoria or bliss. It's about living in alignment with something larger and more enduring than just momentary pleasure or the avoidance of pain.
That's such a critical distinction, because the relentless pursuit of happiness can, ironically, make us more unhappy and feel more unfulfilled if that's the only target. So if purpose or meaning is the more sustainable and maybe more rewarding goal, how do we actually go about discovering it? How do we integrate it into our everyday lives? It sounds kind of big and abstract.
It does sound big, doesn't it? Find your purpose. But this raises that truly fundamental question. How do we actively, consciously construct a meaningful life, day by day? Dr. Smith's advice here is elegantly structured and quite practical. First, she says, you must figure out values through reflection. And then, crucially, you must build meaning via actions aligned with them.
Reflection, then action. Okay.
Yes. Notice this is not a passive process of just waiting for purpose to magically reveal itself in a flash of insight, although those can happen. It's presented as an active, often iterative journey of introspection, followed by deliberate choice and action. It begins with taking the time, maybe carving out specific time, to truly identify your core values. What genuinely matters most to you deep down? What principles do you want to live by? Is it connection, creativity, justice, security, personal growth, community impact, adventure? What are your non-negotiables?
Knowing what matters most to you.
Exactly. Once you have a clearer sense of those core values, the next step is to make conscious, deliberate choices and take actions big and small that directly reflect and honor those values in your daily life. For instance, consider someone in the U.S. contemplating a significant career change. They feel dissatisfied, maybe burnt out, but unsure what to do next.
Common scenario.
Very common. Reflecting deeply on their core values, maybe, for example, they realize that community impact and personal creativity are far more important to them now than high financial gain, which might have been the priority earlier in life. This reflection can profoundly guide their decisions. If their deepest value now is truly community impact, they might choose to leave a high-paying corporate job in a big city and take a role, perhaps with lower pay, in a local nonprofit organization right there in their own town, where they can see the direct results of their work.
Aligning work with values.
Yes. Their actions then align with their stated purpose, their core values. And this alignment, this integrity between values and action, is what creates that profound sense of fulfillment, that deep meaning that often transcends mere monetary compensation or external status. This alignment is the bedrock of a meaningful life, she suggests.
And beyond our individual values and actions, Dr. Smith stresses another absolutely critical cornerstone for a meaningful life, something we touched on earlier too, our relationships with others.
Absolutely critical. Dr. Julie Smith very powerfully stresses relationships as cornerstones of a meaningful human existence. It's not just about me, it's about we. In our digital age, with its inherent paradox, we have constant connectivity, yet simultaneously experience increasing reports of loneliness and isolation. She emphasizes the profound importance of nurturing our bonds with genuine check-ins, real connection.
Going beyond the superficial,
It's exactly. Despite having potentially thousands of friends or followers on social media and being constantly plugged into digital communication, many Americans across all age groups report feeling more isolated or lonely than ever before. It's a documented trend. Dr. Smith's advice encourages us to move beyond the superficiality of that quick like or the fleeting comment on a social media post. Instead, make the effort to make a genuine phone call. Have a face-to-face coffee or virtual coffee with a neighbor or a friend. Actively listen. Or maybe volunteer with a local community group to foster deeper, more authentic, and ultimately more meaningful connections through shared activity and purpose. These genuine human bonds, the feeling of belonging, of being seen, of contributing to something beyond ourselves, these are the rich tapestries that weave depth, resilience, and profound joy into the fabric of our lives. Human connection, she reminds us, is not just pleasant. It is an absolutely essential ingredient for our overall well-being and our enduring sense of purpose. We are social creatures.
And finally, perhaps one of the most crucial and often one of the most difficult aspects of navigating life's inevitable challenges and building meaning, especially when things get truly tough, is knowing when to ask for help. And perhaps, importantly, seeing that as a sign of strength, not weakness.
Indeed. Yes, a crucial, often underestimated aspect of cultivating a meaningful and resilient life is knowing precisely when to seek help and being willing to do so. Dr. Smith highlights the rapidly expanding resources available today. She references therapy apps booming in 2025 as a significant sign both of changing attitudes towards mental health and, importantly, of dramatically increased accessibility to professional support from many people.
Therapy is becoming more normalized, more accessible.
Definitely. The rapid rise of telehealth mental health services across the U.S., accelerated by the pandemic but continuing strongly, has made therapy and professional guidance far more accessible for people in rural areas, people with mobility issues, people with busy schedules. And importantly, this increased accessibility, along with more open public conversations, is significantly helping to remove the persistent stigma that has traditionally been associated with seeking psychological support. It's becoming okay, even smart, to ask for help.
It's like getting help for a physical issue.
Exactly.
Mm.
It empowers individuals to proactively seek professional guidance when they're navigating complex emotional landscapes, dealing with trauma, or just feeling stuck. It ensures they have the necessary tools, strategies, and external support to continue their journey toward building a deeply meaningful and fulfilling life. It's about proactive, informed care for your most vital resource, your mind and your emotional well-being. It's a sign of strength and self-awareness, not weakness.
So the finale here, the big picture takeaway from this last section. It's truly about learning how to consciously craft a life rich in depth, where meaning outshines momentary joys. It's about building something lasting, something solid within yourself.
That's the ultimate resounding takeaway, I believe. This isn't about constructing a life devoid of happiness, far from it. Meaning and happiness often go hand in hand. Rather, it's about creating an existence where happiness emerges more organically, more frequently, maybe more sustainably, as a byproduct of something far more substantial, something deeply rooted in your values and your actions.
Happiness as a byproduct, not the goal itself.
That's a great way to put it. It's about sustained fulfillment and profound contentment, which might include happiness, but also encompasses peace, acceptance, resilience. It's not just about transient highs. By intentionally defining what truly matters to you, by aligning your daily actions, your work, your relationships, how you spend your time with your deepest values, and by actively nurturing genuine connections, you empower yourself to construct a life that is not just happy in fleeting moments, but is deeply meaningful, inherently resilient, and profoundly fulfilling over the long run. You build a life you feel proud of, a life that feels like yours.
Wow. This marks the conclusion of our deep dive today into the powerful insights from Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before by Dr. Julie Smith. We genuinely hope you've gained invaluable tools, some fresh perspectives, and truly actionable insights that you can start experimenting with in your own daily life starting today. Thank you so much for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share if you found this valuable to help support future deep dives.
So just to wrap up, what does all this truly mean for you, listening right now? We've journeyed through quite a lot today, haven't we? Understanding low mood is a signal, not just a bad feeling. Sparking motivation through action, not waiting for inspiration. Learning practical ways to ride intense emotional waves instead of being drowned by them. Navigating the complex, swirling path of grief. Tackling that insidious inner voice of self-doubt. Effectively taming fear, not eliminating it. Mastering the dual nature of stress, using it sometimes. And ultimately, tips for deliberately crafting a profoundly meaningful life based on your values. The recurring, powerful thread weaving through all of Dr. Julie Smith's insights is a truly liberating one, I think. You are absolutely not powerless in the face of your emotions and your circumstances.
It's huge.
It is. You possess inherent agency. And you can, through learned tools, conscious practice, and self-compassion, build a more resilient, more fulfilling, more authentically lived existence. The tools are out there.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting, maybe even exciting for you to consider going forward. Imagine how just one of these crucial shifts we talked about today, maybe just one small change, like being genuinely kinder to yourself when self-doubt inevitably creeps in, or actively choosing one small action to build momentum when you feel utterly stuck. Imagine how that one shift could ripple outwards, how it could profoundly impact your entire day, maybe your entire week, perhaps even the course of your entire year. This isn't just compelling psychological theory we've been discussing. It's a powerful and direct call to action for your own mental well-being, your own personal growth, starting right now.
That ripple effect is so true. Which leads me to this final important question. A question for you to perhaps ponder long after this deep dive ends today. If nobody told you these fundamental truths about your mind and your emotional landscape before reading Dr. Smith's book or hearing this discussion, What other profound self-discoveries, what other insights about your own inner world are still waiting patiently to be unearthed? Simply by paying closer, more intentional attention to your internal experience and by actively, courageously embracing these powerful tools and insights that Dr. Smith so generously shares. What else is waiting to be learned about you by you?
Wow, what a perfect thought to end on. What an incredible, truly transformative journey we've embarked on together today. We genuinely hope this deep dive has provided you with profound clarity, maybe some fresh inspiration, and definitely some truly actionable steps you can take to enhance your mental well being. Thank you so much for joining us here on Book Podcast Zone. We've absolutely loved unpacking these invaluable sources and ideas with you, and we eagerly look forward to our next exploration together.